Sarah Martinez had always been different from other kids. While her friends played with dolls, she was in the backyard with her grandfather learning to shoot tin cans off fence posts. Her grandfather, a Vietnam veteran, saw something special in her steady hands and calm focus. He taught her that shooting wasn't about aggression or showing off. It was about discipline, patience, and respect for the weapon. Growing up in a small Texas town, Sarah faced plenty of doubts. Her high school classmates thought it was weird that a girl spent her weekends at the gun range instead of the mall. Her own mother worried that shooting was too masculine for her daughter. But Sarah didn't care what anyone thought. She found peace in the rhythm of loading, aiming, and firing. The range was her sanctuary, a place where everything else faded away except her, the target, and the perfect shot. After graduating high school, Sarah surprised everyone by joining the military. Not as a nurse or administrator like people expected, but as a combat support specialist. Her drill sergeants quickly noticed her exceptional marksmanship skills during basic training. While other recruits struggled to hit their targets, Sarah consistently scored perfect marks. Her instructors were impressed, but some of her male colleagues weren't as supportive. During her first deployment overseas, Sarah worked as part of a logistics team, ensuring supplies reached forward operating bases safely. The work was dangerous, with constant threats of ambushes and roadside bombs. Sarah proved herself reliable and steady under pressure. Her convoy teammates trusted her completely, knowing she could handle herself if things went bad. But it was during downtime at the base that her real talents shined. The base had a small shooting range where soldiers could practice and maintain their skills. Sarah would spend hours there, working on her technique and helping other soldiers improve their accuracy. Word spread quickly about the quiet logistics specialist who could outshoot almost everyone on base. Officers from different units started coming by to watch her practice sessions. One evening, Sarah was at the range working on long-distance shots when she overheard a conversation that would change everything. A group of Navy SEALs had arrived at the base for a joint operation. They were discussing their upcoming mission and complaining about the quality of local support personnel. One SEAL, a cocky operator named Derek Thompson, made a comment that stuck with Sarah. "These regular military folks are fine for moving boxes, but when it comes to real combat skills, they're just not at our level." Sarah didn't say anything that night, but Thompson's words bothered her. She had dedicated years to perfecting her shooting skills and had proven herself in dangerous situations. The dismissive attitude toward non-special forces personnel was something she encountered often, but it never stopped stinging. That night she stayed at the range longer than usual, working on her precision shots as the sun set over the desert base. The next morning brought news that would give Sarah an unexpected opportunity. The base commander announced a joint training exercise between the various units stationed there. It would include combat drills, tactical exercises, and a marksmanship competition. The SEALs were excited, seeing it as a chance to show their superiority over the regular military units. Thompson was particularly vocal about how his team would dominate every event. Sarah's commanding officer approached her about representing their logistics unit in the marksmanship competition. He knew about her skills and thought she could make a good showing against the other units. Sarah agreed immediately, though she kept quiet about her real capabilities. She had learned from her grandfather that sometimes it was better to let your shooting do the talking. As news of the competition spread through the base, betting pools started forming. Most of the money was on the SEALs to sweep every category. Thompson's team was considered unbeatable, especially Thompson himself, who had a reputation as one of the best marksmen in the Navy. When soldiers heard that a logistics specialist named Martinez was entering the competition, many assumed it was a man. The few who knew Sarah was female didn't think much of her chances against elite special forces operators. The week leading up to the competition was filled with trash talk and boasting. Thompson and his teammates made no effort to hide their confidence. They spoke loudly in the mess hall about their previous victories and the records they planned to break. Sarah listened quietly from her table, eating her meals and observing their behavior. She noticed how they carried themselves with supreme confidence, how other soldiers looked at them with a mixture of respect and intimidation. During this time, Sarah continued her regular practice sessions, but she was careful not to show her full capabilities. She shot well enough to avoid drawing attention but held back her most impressive skills. A few soldiers from other units had started coming to watch her practice, curious about the unknown competitor who would face the mighty SEALs. Sarah was friendly but modest, never bragging about her abilities or making bold predictions about the upcoming competition. The night before the marksmanship competition, Sarah called her grandfather back in Texas. She told him about the upcoming challenge and how nervous she felt about representing her unit. Her grandfather reminded her of the lessons he had taught her years ago. Stay calm, focus on the fundamentals, and let the target tell you what to do. He reminded her that shooting was about more than just hitting a target. It was about mental discipline and emotional control. As Sarah hung up the phone, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had been preparing for this moment her entire life, even though she hadn't known it. All those hours at the range with her grandfather, all the practice sessions on base, all the quiet confidence she had built over the years. It was all leading to tomorrow. She went to bed early, knowing that the next day would either validate everything she believed about herself or crush her dreams in front of the entire base. The competition was set to begin at dawn, with various shooting challenges testing different skills and distances. Sarah had no idea that by the end of the day, she would become a legend on the base and teach Derek Thompson a lesson in humility that he would never forget. Dawn broke over the military base with unusual excitement. Word had spread about the marksmanship competition, and soldiers from every unit were gathering to watch. The shooting range had been expanded for the event, with targets set up at various distances and different shooting positions prepared. Base personnel had even set up bleachers for spectators, turning what should have been a simple training exercise into a major event. Sarah arrived early, carrying her gear in a simple canvas bag. She wore standard-issue combat fatigues and a baseball cap pulled low over her eyes. Most of the gathering crowd didn't give her a second glance. She looked like any other support personnel who might be helping with the competition setup. Meanwhile, Thompson and his SEAL team made a grand entrance, their tactical gear pristine, and their confidence radiating across the range. The competition rules were straightforward: multiple shooting disciplines including precision rifle, pistol accuracy, moving targets, and speed shooting. Each competitor would be scored on accuracy and consistency across all events. The SEAL team dominated the sign-up sheet, with Thompson's name prominently displayed at the top. Sarah's name appeared much further down the list, written in simple block letters without any unit designation that would impress anyone. As the morning progressed, other competitors began their warm-up routines. Thompson drew a crowd as he practiced, his shots grouping tightly at impressive distances. His teammates cheered him on, and even soldiers from other units stopped to watch his demonstration. Sarah found a quiet corner of the range for her warm-up, firing a few casual shots to check her rifle's zero. Her shots were good, but she deliberately kept them from being spectacular. During the safety briefing, Thompson made his first direct encounter with Sarah. As the range officer explained the competition format, Thompson noticed the small woman sitting quietly in the back row. He nudged his teammate and whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "Look, they let the support staff enter too." "That's cute. Probably never fired anything bigger than a training rifle." Several soldiers chuckled, though some seemed uncomfortable with the dismissive comment. Sarah heard every word but kept her expression neutral. She had dealt with skepticism and condescension throughout her military career. Her grandfather had taught her that the best response to doubt was results, not arguments. She simply nodded when the range officer asked if she understood the rules and checked her gear one final time. The first event was precision rifle shooting at 300 yards. Competitors had to fire 5 rounds from a supported prone position, with scoring based on group size and accuracy. The SEALs went first, each one posting respectable scores that drew applause from the crowd. Thompson shot last among his team, and his performance was impressive. A tight group centered perfectly on the bullseye that earned him the highest score of the morning. When Sarah's turn came, the crowd had thinned somewhat. Many spectators had assumed the real competition was over once the SEALs finished. Thompson and his teammates stayed to watch, more out of curiosity than concern. As Sarah settled into her shooting position, Thompson made another comment. "This should be entertaining. Hope she doesn't hurt herself with that rifle." Sarah tuned out the distractions and focused on her breathing. She had fired thousands of rounds from this exact position during her training and practice sessions. The rifle felt like an extension of her body as she aligned the sights and found her natural point of aim. Her first shot surprised several observers with its precise placement in the center of the target. Her second and third shots followed, each one placed with mechanical precision. By her fourth shot, the crowd had grown quiet. Even Thompson stopped talking as he watched through binoculars. Sarah's group was forming into an incredibly tight cluster that rivaled anything shot that morning. Her final round completed a group that was noticeably smaller than Thompson's impressive effort. The range officer called out her score and several people double-checked the numbers. Sarah had not only beaten Thompson's score but had set a new range record. Thompson's confident smile faded as the implications sank in. His teammates looked confused, unsure how to react to being upstaged by someone they had dismissed so casually. Sarah simply cleared her rifle, gathered her equipment, and moved to the back of the crowd to wait for the next event. She didn't celebrate or acknowledge the surprised looks from other competitors. The second event tested pistol accuracy at 25 yards. This was Thompson's strongest discipline, and he was eager to reassert his dominance. His performance was flawless, every shot placed within the inner rings of the target earning maximum points. As he finished, he looked directly at Sarah and said loudly, "Let's see how the logistics lady handles a real challenge." Sarah approached the pistol line with the same quiet confidence she had shown with the rifle. Her stance was textbook perfect, her grip steady and consistent. Unlike Thompson, who fired rapidly with theatrical flair, Sarah took her time between shots. Each round was fired deliberately, with careful attention to sight alignment and trigger control. Her methodical approach seemed almost boring compared to Thompson's dynamic style. But when the targets were scored, Sarah's deliberate approach had paid off. Every one of her shots was placed in the exact center of the bullseye, forming a group so tight that several shots had enlarged the same hole. Her score not only matched Thompson's but achieved something he hadn't, a perfect score with no dropped points. The crowd's murmur grew louder as people began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. Thompson's cocky demeanor was beginning to crack. He had expected to dominate this competition easily, using it as another opportunity to demonstrate SEAL superiority over regular military personnel. Instead, he found himself being matched and even beaten by someone he had dismissed as irrelevant. His teammates were growing quiet, unsure whether to continue their earlier swagger or start taking this unknown competitor seriously. The third event involved moving targets, clay pigeons launched at various angles and distances. This discipline required quick reflexes, excellent hand-eye coordination, and the ability to adapt rapidly to changing conditions. Thompson excelled at this type of dynamic shooting, breaking targets with impressive consistency. His performance drew applause and restored some of his confidence as he managed to hit 47 out of 50 targets. When Sarah's turn arrived, she approached the shooting station with the same calm demeanor that had characterized her previous performances. The clay pigeon machine began launching targets in random patterns, and Sarah began engaging them with fluid, economical movements. Her shotgun seemed to move effortlessly from target to target, each shot timed perfectly with the flight path of the clay discs. What made Sarah's performance remarkable wasn't just her accuracy, it was her efficiency. While Thompson had used aggressive body movements and rapid fire to break his targets, Sarah moved with minimal wasted motion. Her shooting stance remained stable while her gun tracked smoothly across the sky. She broke 49 out of 50 targets, missing only one difficult crossing shot that was barely within the acceptable engagement zone. As the morning events concluded, scorekeepers tabulated the results. Sarah led the overall competition by a significant margin, having either won or placed very highly in every discipline. Thompson found himself in an unfamiliar position, second place and falling further behind with each event. The crowd's attention had shifted completely to Sarah, with soldiers from various units asking about her background and training. During the lunch break, Thompson approached Sarah directly for the first time. His earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" he asked, his tone more serious than mocking. Sarah simply replied, "My grandfather taught me that good shooting isn't about showing off. It's about doing your job when it matters." The afternoon would bring the final events, including the most challenging discipline of all, long-range precision shooting at 800 yards. This was where Thompson hoped to make his comeback, using the advanced training and equipment that made SEALs legendary. He had no idea that Sarah's greatest strengths were yet to be revealed. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the desert range as competitors prepared for the most challenging events. Word had spread throughout the entire base about the logistics specialist who was embarrassing the Navy SEALs, and the crowd had grown significantly. Soldiers abandoned their afternoon duties to witness what many were calling the most surprising competition in the base's history. Even officers from the command staff had arrived to watch the final events unfold. Thompson spent the lunch break huddled with his teammates, analyzing what had gone wrong and strategizing for the remaining events. They pulled up Sarah's personnel file on a tablet, searching for clues about her background. What they found only deepened the mystery. She had an exemplary service record but no special forces training, no advanced marksmanship schools, and no competition shooting background. On paper, she looked like exactly what she claimed to be, a dedicated logistics specialist with standard military training. Meanwhile, Sarah ate her lunch alone, reviewing the afternoon schedule in her mind. She knew the hardest challenges were yet to come, including the long-range precision event that would test every skill her grandfather had taught her. The growing crowd made her slightly nervous, but she reminded herself of countless hours spent shooting with her grandfather watching. He had always told her that pressure was just another environmental factor to account for, like wind or temperature. The first afternoon event was speed shooting. Competitors had to engage multiple targets as quickly as possible while maintaining acceptable accuracy. This discipline favored aggressive shooters who could move rapidly between positions while keeping their shots on target. Thompson approached this event with renewed confidence, knowing that speed and aggression were SEAL specialties. Thompson's performance was spectacular in its intensity. He moved between shooting positions like a predator, engaging targets with rapid fire that sounded like a continuous roar. His time was impressive and his accuracy remained high despite the breakneck pace. As he finished, sweat dripped from his face and his teammates cheered enthusiastically. Several spectators applauded, impressed by the dramatic display of tactical shooting skills. Sarah's approach to the speed event was completely different. Where Thompson had used brute force and aggression, she employed calculated efficiency. Her movements between positions were smooth and economical, with no wasted energy or motion. Her shots came in controlled pairs, each one placed deliberately despite the time pressure. She didn't look as dramatic as Thompson, but her technique was flawless. When the times and scores were announced, the crowd erupted in surprise. Sarah had not only matched Thompson's accuracy, but had completed the course several seconds faster. Her smooth, efficient movements had actually saved time compared to Thompson's more aggressive, but less controlled approach. The scoreboard showed her extending her overall lead even further, leaving Thompson and his team struggling to understand how they were being systematically outperformed. The penultimate event was tactical shooting under stress. Competitors had to engage targets while wearing full combat gear and after completing physical exercises designed to elevate heart rate and breathing. This was supposed to be where Special Forces training would show its greatest advantage, combining marksmanship with the physical conditioning and stress management that SEALs were famous for. Thompson and his teammates dominated the physical portion of the test, completing obstacle courses and combat exercises with the superior conditioning expected of elite operators. Their heart rates elevated, but their training allowed them to recover quickly and transition to shooting positions. Thompson's performance under these conditions was solid, reflecting years of training in high-stress environments. When Sarah's turn came, some spectators expected her to struggle with the physical demands. Logistics specialists weren't known for the extreme fitness levels maintained by special operations forces. However, Sarah's regular training routine and natural athleticism served her well. She completed the required exercises efficiently, though not with the same speed as the SEALs. But when Sarah transitioned to shooting, something remarkable happened. Despite her elevated heart rate and breathing, her shooting technique remained virtually unchanged from her earlier performances. Her shots were placed with the same mechanical precision that had characterized her shooting all day. It became clear that her shooting skills weren't dependent on perfect physical conditions. They were so deeply ingrained that stress and fatigue couldn't disrupt them. As the tactical shooting scores were announced, Thompson's frustration became visible. Sarah had once again outperformed him, maintaining her accuracy under stress conditions that should have favored his advanced training. His teammates were no longer offering encouragement. They were staring in disbelief at the scoreboard that showed their unit being systematically Defeated by a single competitor, they had dismissed as irrelevant. The key, final event of the competition was long-range, precision shooting at 800 yards. This was the ultimate test of marksmanship skill, requiring perfect technique, environmental awareness, and mental discipline. The targets were barely visible to the naked eye, and factors like wind speed, temperature, and barometric pressure all affected bullet flight. This was where Thompson expected to make his final stand, using the advanced training that made SEALs legendary. The shooting positions for this event were set up on a hill overlooking the range, with competitors firing down at targets that looked like tiny dots in the distance. High-powered spotting scopes were positioned for judges to observe bullet impacts, and large display boards would show the results to spectators. The atmosphere was tense as competitors prepared their equipment and studied environmental conditions. Thompson set up his shooting position with military precision, using advanced equipment and techniques learned in SEAL training. He had a high-end precision rifle, specialized ammunition, and electronic devices to measure environmental factors. His preparation was methodical and professional, drawing nods of approval from observing officers who recognized the quality of his equipment and technique. Sarah's setup looked almost primitive by comparison. She used a standard-issue rifle with basic accessories, relying on simple calculations and personal experience rather than electronic aids. Her preparation ritual was quiet and personal, involving techniques her grandfather had taught her decades earlier. She estimated wind speed by observing grass movements and dust patterns, using methods that seemed outdated compared to Thompson's high-tech approach. As the long-range event began, Thompson fired his first shot with confidence. The bullet struck close to the bullseye, earning him a respectable score that drew applause from the crowd. His subsequent shots maintained good accuracy, though the challenging conditions prevented him from achieving the precision he had hoped for. His final score was impressive and would have won most competitions. When Sarah's turn arrived, the crowd had grown silent with anticipation. She settled into her shooting position with the same calm demeanor that had characterized her entire performance. Her first shot rang out across the desert, and spotters called out a bullseye hit that caused a murmur of surprise from the crowd. Her second shot followed the first into nearly the same hole, and the murmur grew louder. Shot after shot, Sarah placed bullets into a group so tight that spotters had difficulty distinguishing individual hits. Her performance was so consistent that it seemed almost mechanical, as if she were operating some sort of precision instrument rather than firing a handheld rifle. The crowd grew increasingly excited as they realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. When the final scores were calculated and announced, the range fell completely silent. Sarah had not only won the long-range event by a massive margin, but her overall competition score was higher than some entire teams had achieved. She had broken multiple range records and defeated every competitor by margins that seemed almost impossible. Thompson stood frozen as the reality of his defeat sank in. The SEAL who had mocked a logistics specialist's range time had been thoroughly outshot by the very person he had dismissed. His teammates looked stunned, unable to process how their elite training had been surpassed by someone they had considered beneath their notice. The silence that followed the final score announcement stretched across the desert range like a held breath. Hundreds of soldiers stood motionless, processing what they had just witnessed. Thompson remained frozen in his shooting position, his high-tech rifle still pointed downrange, as if he could somehow change the outcome by staying perfectly still. His teammates exchanged bewildered glances, their usual confidence completely shattered. Sarah quietly began cleaning her rifle, following the same methodical routine she had performed thousands of times. She seemed almost unaware of the stunned crowd around her, focused entirely on caring for her equipment as her grandfather had taught her. The simple act of running a cleaning rod through her barrel appeared to be the only normal thing happening on the entire range. The base commander stepped forward to present awards, his own expression reflecting the amazement shared by everyone present. He had expected a routine training competition that would boost morale and provide some entertainment for the troops. Instead, he had witnessed what might be the most remarkable display of marksmanship in the base's history. The gold medal felt almost inadequate as he approached Sarah to present it. As Sarah accepted her award, Thompson finally moved from his shooting position. His face had gone through several color changes during the past few minutes. Red with embarrassment, pale with shock, and now settling into a grim acceptance of reality. The man who had started the day as the undisputed champion of the range now faced the humbling experience of being completely outclassed by someone he had mocked. The crowd began to disperse slowly, soldiers talking in hushed tones about what they had seen. Many had witnessed individual acts of exceptional marksmanship before, but Sarah's complete domination across every discipline was something entirely different. Phone cameras had captured portions of the competition, and videos were already being shared across social media platforms, spreading the story far beyond the desert base. Thompson's commanding officer approached him as he packed his equipment. The conversation was brief and private, but Thompson's body language suggested he was receiving guidance about sportsmanship and humility. The officer's expression was stern but not unsympathetic. He understood that even elite operators could learn valuable lessons about respect and assumptions. Sarah found herself surrounded by soldiers from various units, all eager to learn about her background and training methods. She answered questions politely but briefly, maintaining the same modest demeanor that had characterized her entire military career. When asked about her secret to success, she repeated the lessons her grandfather had taught her: patience, practice, and respect for the fundamentals. One young soldier asked Sarah if she had ever considered trying out for special forces, given her obvious skills. Sarah smiled and explained that she was happy in her current role, supporting combat operations through logistics work. She genuinely enjoyed her job and had never sought the spotlight that came with elite military units. Her satisfaction came from doing her job well, not from recognition or special status. As the afternoon wore on, Thompson approached Sarah near the equipment cleaning area. His earlier arrogance was completely gone, replaced by genuine curiosity and grudging respect. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly, ensuring their conversation remained private. "I made assumptions about you that were completely wrong, and I'm sorry for the disrespectful comments." Sarah accepted his apology graciously, explaining that she harbored no ill will toward him or his teammates. She understood that Special Forces operators took pride in their abilities, and that her performance had been unexpected. She suggested that perhaps they could learn from each other. Her precision techniques might complement their tactical training, while she could benefit from their stress management methods. Thompson was intrigued by Sarah's offer to share knowledge. Despite his wounded pride, he was professional enough to recognize superior skills when he encountered them. He asked Sarah if she would be willing to provide marksmanship instruction to his unit during their remaining time at the base. The request represented a complete reversal from his morning attitude. Acknowledging her expertise instead of dismissing it, Sarah agreed to help with training sessions, but she insisted on keeping them low-key and focused on fundamentals rather than advanced techniques. She explained that her grandfather had always emphasized that exceptional shooting began with mastering basic skills, not with exotic equipment or complicated methods. Her approach was simple but incredibly effective when applied consistently over time. Word of the training arrangement spread quickly through the base, generating intense interest from soldiers in multiple units. Sarah found herself scheduled for several instruction sessions, teaching everyone from new recruits to experienced non-commissioned officers. Her teaching style was patient and encouraging, focusing on individual improvement rather than competition between students. During the first training session with Thompson's unit, Sarah demonstrated the techniques that had made her performance so remarkable. She showed how proper breathing control could eliminate most accuracy problems, how consistent sight alignment mattered more than expensive equipment, and how mental discipline affected physical performance. The SEALs listened intently, their professional pride set aside in favor of learning valuable skills. Thompson proved to be an eager student, asking detailed questions about Sarah's methods and practicing diligently to incorporate her techniques into his own shooting style. He discovered that some of his previous training had actually been counterproductive, emphasizing speed and aggression at the expense of precision and consistency. Sarah's more methodical approach initially felt slow and boring, but produced noticeably better results. The transformation in Thompson's attitude became apparent to everyone on the base. The cocky operator who had mocked support personnel was now seeking advice from the very person he had dismissed. His teammates followed his lead, recognizing that their initial assumptions had been completely wrong, and that they had an opportunity to learn from someone with extraordinary skills. Sarah's training sessions became legendary on the base, with soldiers from every unit trying to attend. She taught practical shooting techniques that could be applied immediately, regardless of a person's current skill level or equipment. Her emphasis on fundamentals resonated with everyone from beginners to experienced marksmen who had plateaued in their development. The most remarkable aspect of Sarah's teaching was her ability to diagnose and correct shooting problems quickly. She could watch someone fire a few rounds and immediately identify the technical issues preventing better accuracy. Her corrections were simple but effective, often involving basic adjustments to stance, grip, or breathing that produced immediate improvement. As word of the competition spread beyond the base, Sarah began receiving attention from military training commands and marksmanship organizations. Requests came in for her to participate in advanced competitions and provide instruction at military schools. The quiet logistics specialist who had wanted only to do her job well suddenly found herself in demand as a shooting instructor and competitor. The attention made Sarah somewhat uncomfortable, as she had never sought recognition or fame for her abilities. She preferred the simple satisfaction of helping other soldiers improve their skills and contributing to mission success through her logistics work. However, she recognized that her unexpected celebrity status could be used to benefit other service members through improved training programs. Thompson's unit completed their mission at the base successfully, but not before each member had spent significant time learning from Sarah's instruction. As they prepared to leave, Thompson made a point of thanking Sarah publicly for her patience and expertise. The gesture completed his transformation from arrogant skeptic to respectful colleague, earning approval from soldiers throughout the base. 6 months after the competition that changed everything, Sarah sat in a military conference room facing a panel of senior officers from various branches of the armed forces. The videos of her record-breaking performance had traveled far up the chain of command, eventually reaching Pentagon officials responsible for military training programs. What started as a routine-based competition had evolved into discussions about revolutionary changes to marksmanship instruction across all service branches. The lead officer, a Marine Corps general with extensive combat experience, reviewed Sarah's file with obvious interest. Her performance had been so exceptional that initial reports were dismissed as exaggerated until video evidence confirmed every detail. The general had personally reviewed footage of her shooting and consulted with marksmanship experts who confirmed that her techniques were both sound and remarkably effective. Sarah maintained her characteristic composure during the meeting, answering questions about her training methods and philosophy with the same modest precision that characterized her shooting. She explained her grandfather's influence, the thousands of hours of practice that had refined her skills, and her belief that exceptional marksmanship was accessible to anyone willing to master fundamental techniques through dedicated practice. The officers were particularly interested in Sarah's ability to teach her skills to others. Reports from her base indicated that soldiers who attended her training sessions showed dramatic improvement in short periods. Even experienced marksmen who had plateaued for years discovered new levels of accuracy under her instruction. Her teaching methods appeared to be as exceptional as her personal shooting abilities. During the meeting, Sarah learned about a pilot program being developed to revolutionize military marksmanship training. Traditional programs focused heavily on volume of fire and tactical scenarios, often neglecting the precision fundamentals that Sarah considered essential. The military was interested in incorporating her methods into a comprehensive, new curriculum that could be implemented across all branches. Sarah was offered a position as a senior marksmanship instructor at the military's premier shooting school, with responsibilities for developing new training protocols and teaching advanced courses. The offer included promotion opportunities, specialized assignments, and the chance to influence how thousands of future soldiers would learn shooting skills. It represented a complete career change from her logistics work. The decision wasn't easy for Sarah. She genuinely enjoyed her current role and had built strong relationships with her logistics unit. The offered position would mean leaving behind the quiet satisfaction of support work for the higher-profile world of training command. However, the opportunity to help other soldiers develop life-saving skills was compelling and aligned with her desire to serve effectively. Meanwhile, Thompson had returned to his SEAL team's home base with a completely transformed perspective on marksmanship and military relationships. His experience with Sarah had taught him valuable lessons about assumptions, respect, and the importance of learning from unexpected sources. He incorporated her techniques into his own training and shared her methods with his entire unit. Thompson's commanding officers noticed the improvement in his shooting performance and asked about the changes in his approach. When he explained Sarah's influence and the lessons learned from being outshot by a logistics specialist, his story became part of SEAL training discussions about humility and continuous learning. The incident was used as an example of how exceptional skills could be found in unexpected places. The SEAL community's interest in Sarah's methods led to additional requests for her instruction. Special operations units from various services sought training from the woman who had embarrassed one of their best marksmen. Sarah found herself teaching some of the military's most elite operators, sharing techniques that improved even their advanced skills. Sarah's reputation continued to grow as more soldiers experienced her training methods. Her emphasis on mental discipline and fundamental precision resonated with military personnel who had struggled with traditional training approaches. Students reported not just improved accuracy, but greater confidence and consistency under stress conditions that were critical in combat situations. The pilot training program that incorporated Sarah's methods was implemented at 3 military bases, with Sarah serving as the lead instructor. The results exceeded expectations, with recruit graduation rates improving significantly and average marksmanship scores reaching levels previously considered exceptional. Military leadership began planning expansion of the program to additional bases. Sarah's personal life also changed as her reputation spread. She received invitations to compete in civilian marksmanship competitions, offers from firearms manufacturers to endorse products, and requests for interviews from military publications. She declined most commercial opportunities, preferring to focus on her military service and training responsibilities. During a training session with a new group of recruits, Sarah encountered a young soldier who reminded her of herself at that age, quiet, dedicated, and possessing natural shooting ability that needed proper guidance. The recruit, Maria Santos, had grown up in similar circumstances to Sarah, learning to shoot with a family member who emphasized discipline and respect for firearms. Sarah took special interest in Santos's development, providing additional instruction and mentorship that went beyond standard training requirements. She recognized the potential for Santos to become an exceptional marksman with proper guidance and encouragement. The relationship reminded Sarah of her grandfather's influence and the importance of passing on knowledge to the next generation. As Santos progressed through training, her performance began to mirror Sarah's own exceptional abilities. She absorbed Sarah's lessons about mental discipline, consistent technique, and respect for fundamental skills. Other instructors began to notice Santos's remarkable improvement and asked Sarah about her teaching methods with individual students. The success with Santos and other students validated Sarah's belief that exceptional marksmanship skills could be taught to motivated students. Her methods weren't dependent on natural talent or special equipment. They relied on proper technique, dedicated practice, and mental discipline that could be developed by anyone willing to invest the necessary effort. Thompson maintained contact with Sarah through occasional emails and training requests. His unit's marksmanship scores had improved dramatically after implementing her techniques, and he credited her instruction with making him a better operator and leader. The relationship that began with his arrogant dismissal of her abilities had evolved into mutual professional respect. 6 months after their first meeting, Thompson requested Sarah's assistance with a special training program for new SEAL candidates. The program would incorporate her precision fundamentals into the demanding selection process, potentially improving candidate success rates while maintaining the high standards required for special operations. Sarah agreed to participate, seeing it as an opportunity to contribute to elite unit effectiveness. The collaboration between Sarah and Thompson's unit demonstrated how the military's rigid hierarchies could be overcome when individuals focused on mission success rather than personal pride. Sarah's logistics background became irrelevant compared to her expertise and teaching ability, while Thompson's special forces status didn't diminish his willingness to learn from someone with superior skills. As Sarah prepared for her